out of the building, out of Skyland Boulevard, and headed somewhere else besides South Carolina. What's up?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Look, I know you mentioned we're not a basketball school. We definitely aren't. But I think people care more about basketball than it might seem. People are definitely excited with, the way things are going with this program, the job that Nate Oates has done, and, getting to the tournament, having, a couple guys drafted high, a couple big NBA players, Brandon Miller. Um, I'm drawing a blank, man. Colin Sexton. Um, just a lot of success. And, I think it might not seem like it, from South Carolina or other places, but there's a lot of excitement right now within the program. And I think people are looking forward to that, especially, I think people kind of need a break with football. You had all the highs and lows this past season. Coach Saban retired. Some people kind of just want something a little bit different right now. So basketball is, trending. And, I think people are really optimistic about this team and where they're at this point in the season. I know, I wouldn't say they got off to a rocky start. They just played some really good basketball teams, but there was a lot of questions that needed answers early on, and now we're finally starting to get some of those answers. But no, I think people are excited. Now, it'd be great if we could, win it all in basketball. I think that'd be awesome. And I think, look, with Coach Oates and the way he's coaching his team and this program, I think that's not unrealistic. I think it's definitely very realistic. You talk about success that this basketball team has had in the SEC. You mentioned it, multiple SEC championships, winning SEC tourney. So they're definitely on the right track. So, we're definitely not a basketball school, but we care about our basketball. And speaking of that, I just saw, they're coming out with a lot of cool like Alabama basketball apparel. It's been all over Twitter and stuff. So people are excited about it. But now I will say the last three home games, that atmosphere is what I was hoping, it would be like. The first few games that I went to, I was like, dang, man. I was like, this ain't really it. But as of recently, they've been selling out the, Coleman Coliseum, and the atmosphere has been electric, and it's been a lot. There's been a lot of excitement around basketball. So we're getting there. We're not fully there, but we've come a long way
Well,
from
you should be there.
Avery
Y'all
Johnson
didn't
and
win the last two or three SEC championships.
yeah, no, that's what I was saying. You made it seem like we don't really care about it. I was like, no, I think we definitely care about basketball. It's just, it might not seem like it from the outside because all you hear about is football, right? And football is going to supersede any other sport here, even with Coach Saban being retired, which I just saw another picture of him golfing. He's at is it like a Phoenix Pro-Am or something like that? And I think people
No,
are
he ain't back in Tuscaloosa. He didn't come back to his. He didn't
well,
come back to his office.
no, and that's what I was trying to explain. Like, I think they label it as like an advisory role, which it very well could be that. But you got to think, you could be an advisor from home. You could be an advisor from all the way. That could just be you just being a resource for people to call on. Look, here's the thing. Let's just think about this. If he if he was just going to sit here and be on campus 5 days out of the week and be up at the stadium in the office sitting there, number one, he'd get bored because he's not used to just having that much time sitting around in the office, right? I know he's sitting in the office when he was working as a head coach, but he's like watching tape, meeting with coaches, doing all types of things on the phone with recruits. He's not the type just to sit in the office as an advisor, like, okay, just contact me when you need me. And two, I just don't think that's realistic to it. The guy just retired, right? There's a reason he retired. He wanted some time to not be working, right? So I don't really expect to see him in a role where, he's around all the time. Now, knowing the resources that we have, that he has, could he be flying in and out, taking, private planes here, coming in for a day once a week or something like that? Absolutely. I think they're honestly going off of what he feels like, right? If he wants to come in and he's like, hey, I want to be around and help out a little bit more this week, cool. If not, even better, go enjoy yourself. I think that's
I
realistic.
think Kalen DeBoer is more comfortable with him than Oates being there.
You think so?
You get into the absolutely. You get into the press conference, you're going to say the right things. You're going to say, I need to ask him a question, at least one question every day. How can we get? That sounded great. That's coach speak. That's, whatever. But I think from a new coach, you don't want this dude hanging around the office, around your. You can't move on. This is Kalen DeBoer's show now, right? As great as Coach Saban is, as great of a legacy that he leaves behind, we all understand that. We know that. But the reality is, a new guy, and I know if it was me, I don't want him around. Come around sometimes. Come and watch practice. Maybe once a month, something like that. Twice a month, maybe if you're around. You know what I mean? I may have you, come say hey to the guys, new guys, and they get a chance to shake your hand and see the GOAT. But I don't want him around a lot because, one, it's going to be hard for that mystique to leave. It's going to be hard for that Nick Saban era to dissipate if he's around.
First off, I'd like to thank God
Because
for
no
allowing
matter
me to
what
be
you're
here.
doing, you're
There's a lot
not
of
you're
time
not Nick
across
Saban.
the country.
You're the other guy.
Secondly,
And if he's hanging around,
God allowed me to be here.
then all
Secondly,
the
I'd like to
time,
thank my
one, the
family
players are going
for believing in
uh,
me. Continue to
really
push
just
me
migrate
whenever
towards
at
him,
our lowest and at our highest.
right?
I'd like to
He's a
thank my
football
teammates
guy. He's going to
for
want to talk
driving me and pushing
football.
me
He's
every
going
day
to
of the
want
week.
to talk ball. But I
For
don't know
pushing me every day of the
I'm,
week.
I'm like, I
And
wouldn't want him
continue to
around
make me craft and be
because I always feel like I
brilliant
can't
man.
move
And I'd
on. I
like to
can't
thank
change the
parents.
atmosphere. I can't change, put my spin on it, put my hand and imprint on this program at Alabama if Nick Saban doesn't leave. Yeah, I'm going to say the right things. Yeah, I want him at the press conference. Yeah, yada, 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 right? Those things, in my opinion, are calculated. But the reality is, behind the scene, they're like, dude, go home. Go on the golf course. Go ride in your Porsche. Go ride in your Ferrari that you just got, or helicopter ride, whatever that you're doing. Like, go on and do that because, we trying to install a new offense. We're trying to install a new identity. We're trying to install a new mindset, and that's going to work better if you are not like looking over my shoulder every little thing that I'm doing. Because I can tell you just from experience, most coaches don't like that. They want to be able to do their own thing, and then every blue moon, like I said, maybe once a month, twice at the most, show up and then, come and say hello or whatever, come and show your face and not even like all day, just for, maybe an hour, a couple hours and then do what you do. Great if you go play golf in Tuscaloosa somewhere. Whatever. Go out and help raise some money for NIL. Go speak to the Big Red Elephant Foundation or whatever you got. And then, then move on. So I'm hoping that's what he's going to do instead of just.
No, I think that is what he's probably going to do. That's
Right.
why I was saying. I think realistically, they
And
probably
he knows that. Coach Saban knows that.
That's why I just laid that out there for everybody. Just think about it. If he was going to be around here in that capacity, he might as well just stay the head football coach, right? Or he could even just said, "Oh, I'll just take a step back. I'll technically be the head coach, but I'll almost be like, more of like that overseer head coach." But the problem is he can't do that. Coach Saban can't. He doesn't operate like that. He can't be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He can't he's full go. And so that's why even in this role, and I could be wrong. Again, I'm just speculating. But if I know what I know, and I agree with you, I don't see it being where he's in the program multiple days a week and giving advice. That's not even realistic, right? But again, I think it's still nice just to have his presence, even if that is once a month, just because. He is somebody that you can go to when things do pop up. I think that's the best case, right? Let the new staff be themselves. Let them operate how they operate. That's why you hired them. But if there's something that comes up, whether it's from a recruiting standpoint, how to handle something, just how to go about something, or even you talk football with Coach Saban. Even if it's an X's and O's thing, because Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guy. I think it'd be great if if something came up, maybe it's during the spring, they're going over some looks with their new defense, which again is a lot different than what we've ran. Just kind of get his thoughts on kind of, how he looked at certain things. Because Coach Saban, again, you got to remember, man, that dude is a guru when it comes to football. I was just talking recently just about like how his ability just to see things, man, and make changes, make corrections, just on what he's seeing, where they're being attacked, what's happening, like live bullets, right? So I think that's definitely a nice resource to have. But to be fair, he deserves to play as much golf as he spend as much time with his grandkids. Again, that's
Right.
why he retired. So,
Well, we'll see. When we come back from break, we'll talk more about this. I do want to look at, you sent me stuff on the defense. I want to look at Womack's defense. I also want to talk about when we're going to get the finalization of the staff. I mean, what's going to be the final answer? Who's there? Who's coming? Who's staying? Grubb. Still don't even know. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's at the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, and put his staff together. Well, what's happening? I mean, I don't get all this. What's taking so long? So I want to talk about that with the staff. Look at some defense. I want to talk about the draft with some of the guys from Alabama, what we think about that. So all these mock drafts out, we can talk something about that. Of course, the basketball game tonight, that's the big news around Tuscaloosa. We got that. So wherever you want to go, 205-342-9904. Signing day, by the way. Do y'all realize it's signing day? Did you realize, Christian, it was signing day?
Yeah, that's what the title is. It's supposed to be on YouTube. I got to change that. But, yeah, no, it is signing day. It's just so different now because, everybody
Nobody
signs
really cares
early.
anymore with the second sign.
No, they don't. But
irrelevant.
the big news is that Ryan Williams put ink to paper. So he's officially a part of the Crimson Tide. He is.
I bet he got some crimson nails done today.
I don't know. That's none of my
Yeah.
that's none of my business. I don't go around looking for men's nails. I could care less.
Well, not his men's
You
nails,
sure
but
about
his-
that?
I'm positive Noah
I mean,
Paxton.
I wonder
promise
what
you.
color did he get. I'm gonna hit him up on Twitter and see if he got his nails done crimson.
I highly doubt that, but see, and then people and you pulling crap like that is not going. People aren't going to want to come on here because you're making fun of their nails, man.
No, I'm not. I can get my toenails painted. What are you talking about making fun? I think it's a
So you
cool
being
topic.
serious right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was about to say you don't even have room to talk.
I
man.
mean, I get my
Posting
toenails. I
nasty-
put a picture on. I
Nasty
put
feet
myself
pics.
on blast.
Yeah,
on
don't.
Twitter.
Yeah,
What are
please
you
don't do that
talking
again.
about?
Please don't do that again, man. That was disturbing. Please
Justin
don't
was
do
texting
that.
me being like, why is he posting pictures of his feet?
Yeah, seriously. That was. I think it's because with age, he doesn't understand some of the things nowadays. Like I told you, you can't fool around with feet pics. Feet pics are like explicit pics now, man. People
Listen,
sell
man,
them. I'm trying to
not the
help you
coach.
out.
I'm not the defensive coordinator
What?
that talked about his toe fetish.
Who did that?
I'm not Rex Ryan, okay? Rex Ryan told you he had a toe fetish. Remember that?
I think I did hear him say that on. I think it was on ESPN, right? Did he say that on ESPN?
He said that. I mean, he made it put on when he was coaching. He had the toe
Oh
fetish.
well, I
just
saw
said he
him
loved
say
it,
that
you
on
know.
ESPN. I'm
He
just,
liked the fact that when it's one thing to get your yard cut, but it's another thing when you got all the you got to blow it, you got to edge, you got it manicured nicely, you got the bushes all. That makes it look so much nicer. Just like with what he was saying, like with women, same thing, They can be pretty, but if they toes are tore up from the floor, if their hands are tore up, they messed up.
well, I mean, it's one thing to just get them done. I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with self care, but you talking about you posted a picture. Yours looked pink in that picture, dude. Not like a straight hot pink. They were like a salmon pink or like I don't know what you call it. And maybe it was the picture. Maybe they weren't. But you played around and said something about pink, and maybe that's why my eyes were deceiving me. But in my opinion, they look kind of. Anyway, we got to get a break, man.
All right, we gotta hit a break.
Yeah,
I don't
we do.
care. I'm not ashamed. I take care of myself. This is the Middle's Edge on the Tide, 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. Quick timeout. We'll be back in a moment.
Real Cajun food, but there's nowhere to go.
What's going on, everybody? You Kenji, G, Sam, Jeff. We got the whole crew here. Teddy, what's going on, man? I'll try to. Hey Noah, whoops. I'll try to see if we can get this. Now I'm trying up a little bit. I gotta look, guys. Who else did we sign today? I know there's the guy that shut down his recruitment. I can't remember his name. Were those the only two guys that signed today? Ryan Williams and the other guy. What's up, Makai? Joey's in here. What's up, Joey? Joey's always the first one. Joey and Sam. You can, Joe. Be careful searching Drake right now, man. Drake was trending for some other stuff in apparel. Supposed to be 3. QB Reed. Yeah, quarterback sound. Yeah, I think there was one more. I think I missed one. I just didn't know who it was. Obviously, Ryan Williams is the highlight, right? Everybody just wanted to make sure he was locked in. And you never know nowadays, man. Kids pull some stunts. Let's see. Yeah, the third one. So yeah, Ryan Williams. So Quentin Reeves. Oh, wait, is his? Oh, his name is QB. Oh wow. Oh, and Noah Carter. No, it's it. Happy hump day. Okay, yeah, that's right. Sorry, guys, I got to make sure I'm on it before I get it. All right, so Noah Carter, Ryan Williams, and I guess Quentin Reese or QB Reese. 6 foot, 205 pound linebacker. Kind of undersized. I feel like he's in this system. He's going to work because they got those hybrid positions. But before, I don't know. He would have to play safety. You guys always got it.
And as the Alabama Crimson Tiger. And I know many folks are looking forward to see what he can do. A lot of people talked about, he could be the new kind of Julio Jones. Not saying he's going to be the player as Julio Jones. That'd be nonsense to say. But that this signing, having him come back and be a part of this 2024 class, which is ranked, you're into that number 2 in the country behind Georgia. This could be a big deal going forward. A lot of times when you get recruits like this, they help you go out and recruit other guys to play alongside. So, do you see Christian Ryan Williams being that type of recruit? We know he's not Julio Jones. He's not two different kind of players. More like a David Palmer, more smaller guy.
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. Um, but do you think he'll be able to help Alabama now that we know Kalen DeBoer's not an SEC guy yet? Be able to get some other guys now to come and join the party with him.
I think so. I mean, another guy that we've been hearing about was, I think, is it Jamie French? He's a wide receiver, 5-star wide receiver out of Florida, uh, Jacksonville, that is. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think him and Ryan were talking about wanting to play together. That's something that they wanted to do. So I feel like, maybe him and Jamie would, want to, reconnect. Because, again, Jamie French was committed to Alabama, but then he decommitted with Coach Saban's retirement. But could you mute that for a second? But yeah, so I think he's a player that guys are going to want to play with. He's a guy from the state of Alabama. I think that is big for him. I think that's big for the rest of this state. Guys always want to play with really good talent, and so yeah, I think it will attract other players, and I think this is a great step in the right direction for this new era. That's why I kind of I see the correlation between Ryan Williams signing with Alabama and Julio Jones. So, yeah, I think it definitely is good, and I think we'll see some more guys follow. I just, as a defensive guy, I'm definitely biased, and I'm looking to see how this defense is going to take shape. I would love to see a big time defensive recruit come to Alabama, kind of set the tone for this new staff as well. You look back at Coach Saban having guys like Rolando McClain, Dre Kirkpatrick. I mean, there's a number, Mark Barron. I mean, number of just elite defensive, talented guys. Josh Chapman, right? I mean, big Cody, right? I mean, like, I would love to see the defensive side of the ball kind of be affected in that same way, get a major recruit that guys want to come play with here on defense, which I think that will come. But that would get me fired up, right? If we got a generational edge guy, right, or some type of linebacker like a Reuben Foster, a guy who's a tone setter, a guy that really wants to leave his mark here, I think that would be awesome. You got one guy on offense, Ryan Williams, who's a high impact player like that. I would love to see that from this next class, 2025, on defense. I think that'd be huge for this program. And obviously,
it
I'm
would be
biased.
huge, and that's one of the areas which my concern lies right there with this new coaching staff is the defensive side. I ain't buying just yet the defensive coaching staff at all. You're not selling me on Womack and a coach that had a losing record at Buffalo, who left his post as head coach to become a co-defensive coordinator, which to me was kind of strange. So I'm really having trouble with this defensive side of things. And one of the areas, and I've talked about this all year long, last year too, they haven't recruited well at the defensive line position. The area where they were more dominant, more strong than anybody in the country. One of the things nobody could line up against Alabama was the depth. I just remember Kirk Herbstreit and all the TV and talked about the depth of the defensive line. I mean, they got 3 deep. I mean, you go back and watch the tape, even when you were playing. I mean, when you're from a freshman on, I mean, all of those guys, every one of them, probably 99% of them, 98% of them played at some point in time in the National Football League. But as of late, Alabama hasn't really. I mean, they get guys drafted, but low-round guys. You know, guys that don't have they're not the dominant guy that you're talking about. They don't have that guy that just, everybody is just really just bloviating about, right? Coming off the edge. I mean, this year we got Chris Braswell, we got Dallas Turner, great players, but they don't have a plethora of those guys.
Well, I mean, but they got 2 cornerbacks that are arguably the top cornerbacks. So I'm saying, like,
they got one that's going to be a top first round.
Well, there's people that have Terrion and Kool-Aid as 1 and 2 at the cornerback spot. Some people with CBS, I think, had it like that. I'm just saying, like, you still got some of those guys, but I'm just, at least for this new regime.
I'm talking about the defensive line. If you don't have the defensive line, right? Michigan, what won Michigan the championship is the trenches. The reason why what won Georgia back-to-back championships was the trenches.
Right.
And you look at their draft people, the last 2, the defensive line, offensive line, defensive line, offensive line, right? That's what they had. You look at Michigan this year. They won to Joe Moore 2 years ago. Still had a lot of those guys. They gave it to Washington, but I don't. Those awards again. That's a whole nother conversation. If I think they're the best offensive line in the country, I think we get swayed by that. But my point is this: Michigan's defensive front.
Hey, hold on. They gave up way less sacks than we did.
Well,
they at least got us beat there. I mean, I think going into the championship game, they gave up, it was only 12 sacks or something like that.
Yeah, no, they were good at pass fit. And a lot of that could be scheme.
It can be.
Look at how quick the ball is designed. The ball is designed to come out fast. I mean, so that that's not always pass protection. That's just sometimes the scheme.
Dude, I mean, but I get you playing devil's advocate, but I'm just saying, giving up 12 sacks, giving up 12 sacks. I mean, that's still good. As much as they throw the ball.
I'm not even talking about Washington. I don't care about that.
I'm just making a point.
I'm talking about Alabama recruiting. I'm talking about the defensive line, lack thereof, the lack thereof depth, right? So I'm glad, and I feel great about them having Ryan Williams, and I think he's got great potential. But the reality is, offense sells wolf tickets. They're gonna sell the tickets. They're gonna get people talking about you, all your stats. But when it comes down to it, some things never change, and that's the trenches, and that's playing great defense if you want to win championships. And right now, when you look at Alabama, what they have recruited, as you talked about, they don't have those kind of. I mean, they got them 5-star edge guys that ain't even really play. Right, from a couple years ago. They just signed Noah Carter, another edge guy that's more. Some people I listen to people talk about it like he's a kind of a 3-star guy. But some guy said, hey, you know what? But he's much better than a 3-star guy. So that's why I don't get caught up into really all that stuff.
He's a 4-star, but I will say I went and watched him, and you talk about athletic. I mean, and the way he can flip his hips. Like, to me, I think he's underrated, right? And again, that's why I went and watched him, because I didn't know anything about him until he signed here. To be fair, I don't really keep up with recruiting that much. And when I watched him, no, I mean, this guy plays offense. I mean, he's a heck of a wide receiver. He probably could make a really good tight end. But I just think with his athletic ability, his frame, I think he's like 6'4". He'll put on some weight. I think, if anything, he's one of those guys that could actually be a really good football player. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not just about stars, but I just think we could really use some guys. Like when you mentioned the defensive line, it has been a while since we've had that dominant front with guys like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. Don't get me wrong, Byron Young, great player. Phil Mathis, great player. But I would have them on different levels to some of these other guys, right? Just like, if I'm being honest, like, I'm on a different level than a guy like Reuben Foster, right? I mean, I'm not elite. I was not elite like a Reuben Foster. I was a good player, but I would, you know what I'm saying? Like, we haven't had guys like that on the defensive line in some time, I feel like, and that really would set the tone. But the only thing I wonder is, the more you mentioned Kane Womack in the scheme, and I've still been watching it more and learning more and more about it. It's different to me. Sometimes they have 3-man fronts. As somebody who advocates for trench play and being dominant up front, sometimes it's hard for me to even see us getting big time guys to play. Because if you're being honest, those schemes like that, they don't, in my opinion, I don't really see the dominant edge guys, the dominant, trench guys as often as you do in like a regular true 4-down front. The reason I say that is, even look at this past year. So 2 years ago, we were playing a lot of nickel J, which is like 2 outside linebackers as the defensive ends. And remember, everybody was complaining about us not being able to stop the run. Well, this past year, we went back to a true nickel front, which consisted of a big end and then just one back on the opposite side. And I thought we were much stronger and much remember, because we were talking about Will Anderson. He's playing out of position. I know he's making plays in the backfield when he's knifing and he's stunned and he's elusive, but at the end of the day, he's 240 pounds playing in a 4-eye. Well, that's where I get concerned in terms of that stuff, just because, I feel like sometimes when you go too athletic or too light up front, you just get gashed and you give up way too much against the run. So we can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, if you're doing that kind of defense, well, you better have guys flying through those gaps.
Yeah.
Right. You can't sit back and try to read and react. And that's what Alabama got in trouble with, which is why I said yesterday, and I'll talk about this even more today, I wasn't a big fan of how Nick Saban plays certain defenses. And I think it cost him, right? Because you asked him Will Anderson, that's a perfect example, playing a 4-eye, right? Which, let's just call a head up on a tackle at 240 pounds. Right, when you got a guy that's 240 that runs a 4.5, you want him out in space. You want that tackle to play, come get me. Right, let's play this game, come catch me tackle. Right, come in my world, out here in this space so I can flip hips and I can use speed and I can do all these different things. Well, basically what Nick Saban told his guys to do is, I'm just going to block you. Because I'm going to line you up. Even though I'll teach you facing hands and how to get extension on blocks and all that, that don't work. He's 325 and you 240, you lose. That's just what happens. So we'll talk about that. Why isn't Bama getting more defensive front guys? We're going to look at the 2024 signing class and give you our thoughts. And I don't really say a grade, but we'll look at it and see what Kalen DeBoer has to work with. We'll do that. Tommy, you're on hold, and others 205-342-9904. We'll take a call next segment or two for sure. So hang tight right there. This is The Edge on Tide, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. We'll be back in a moment.
At Target, our aisles tell stories of everyday Black joy. The same joy that can be found in our new Black History Month collection. Like feeling empowered with the teas and mugs from legendary roots. Or seeing the beauty of Black culture through the art of Winnie Weston. Bring more black joy to your day with an affordable collection that embraces it. Available now at Target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
West Alabama's Big Old Deer Hunting Contest is underway. Weekly winners are picking up $50 gift cards for Texas Roadhouse. And all weekly winners are entered into the grand prize competition at the end of the season. Take your big buck over to Hicks Taxidermy, the official taxidermy.
Yeah, Joey. Yeah, I think some defensive firepower would be awesome. Now, obviously, this class is signed, so got to look forward to 2025, or maybe April when the transfer portal opens up. But I definitely think we could benefit from some guys like that, man. I mean, but for this year again, you got Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell. Those guys, they should fit well in this new scheme. I think they'll play well. You got Malachi in the back end. Then up front, you got all those defensive linemen back. I think Justin Boybe might be the only one that is moving on. So you got a lot of guys back. Does that make sense when I'm explaining though? So I'll try to be more specific, but like in Kane Womack's 4-2-5 is very a lot of variables with it. They move around a lot. They rely more on secondary guys, hybrid guys, and so there was sometimes three down lineman and like a linebacker hovering like the line of scrimmage. I think it's a situational thing, but just stuff like that's just different. I just like true 4-down, physical guys up front.
Michael Jackson, yeah. Oh, Lordy, have mercy. Signing day is a little bit lackluster. Alabama getting 3 guys. Quentin Reese, undersized linebacker from Birmingham, Alabama. Kalen DeBoer getting one of his original signees or commitments from Washington, Carter, to come down east to play football. Again, Christian have high praise for him. I just read somewhere somebody said they got him as a 5-star. I've heard some people had him as a 3-star. I mean, none of that matters. I mean, be that when you finish playing. That's what I always tell my kids. Listen, I understand that it looks good on your profile. It looks good when people talk about it. But if you're not that when you finish playing, who gives a crap?
Yep.
Because that's what you're going to be. Not what you're in high school. What's going to be is going to be what you do on the football field at Alabama. But a guy like Julius Sang, who's the number 1 overall quarterback, they lose him, Christian. But I think he still counts towards Alabama's class. I think that's how that works.
Well, on 3, so I guess most sites left it alone, but on 3, they did it where they updated I forgot what the term they used, but guys that early enrolled and then transferred, they went ahead and included them in the new school's class. So on 3 Sports, Julian Sam was a part of Ohio State's 2024 signing class. On what I'm looking at 24/7 right here, they left him in there. But again, I mean, it's dominated with secondary players, right? I mean, you got Jalen Mbakwe, 5-star, Xavier Brown, 5-star, Xavier Mincy. Then they got him as a safety here, but I thought he might have been a corner as well. But anyway, so you got 3 secondary guys that are 5-star players according to this site. So we talked about signing some big defense guys. They secondary guys, it's not a problem. I guess Jeremiah Beeman, he's a defensive lineman. I think he's like 101 nationally. I'm just saying, and like you said, it's more so about what they do when they get here. I just know, like you were saying, like we get caught up in so much offense. I hope we still maintain that standard on defense where we have those guys, those dogs that we've always talked about, because that's Alabama's staple, right? And you talked about that's what did Michigan so well this football season, being physical up front, dominating the line of scrimmage in the trenches. Hopefully we continue that. And again, it's probably going to look a little bit different, but I think we still can. It's just the more I watch this scheme, Kane Womack's, it's just, again, it's one of those 4-2-5s that's very, I would say, light and athletic. They rely heavily on the hybrid linebackers and secondary players, right? They're really running middle of the field, closed, cover 3 spot drop principles. And I was even watching. I think it was the team that Frank Gore's son played for. I can't remember. It was like Southern Miss. You know, they're a heavy 10 personnel team, like true red personnel. I mean, they spreading things out, but they like, you know, took their jack, or what they call him, the wolf, and they had him like stacked behind the nose. They were running like a true odd front. It was like a 5, a 0, and a 5. And then they had the wolf like hovering the nose tackle. And then like two line. So to me, like stuff like that, like I'll be honest, I don't like stuff like that, because then it's basically like you're dropping 8, right? When you got a three down front, when you're dropping 8, you're gonna be light against the run, and you got to have those DBs and those safeties and those linebackers. They've got to be so aggressive, or else you just have so many holes. You got to like just think about the math. You've got 5 offensive linemen blocking 3 guys on the front, the defensive front, and then you just got, you know, free runners. So sometimes if they're playing it right and guys are reading and reacting right and they're aggressive, if you had a secondary full of Brian Branches, wouldn't be concerned, right? That dude was a sure tackler. He's aggressive. That's the problem. So I'm thinking of that front, then a lot of youth in the secondary. And we already know it's hard to get cornerbacks and secondary guys. I mean, it's hard to get them to come tackle, right? So now you're asking these young guys to do that. The good news is they have a lot less responsibility in the pass defense, right? Like when I say it's zone principle, spot dropping, it really is. Like they're reading, reacting off the quarterback. Like it's true cover 3, middle of the field closed, right? If they do go to have a two-man shell, they're playing cover 2. Like it's kind of old school, if I'm being honest with you. There's not like the coverage pattern matches that we used to do. They don't run quarters. They don't play cover 4, cover 7, man match. They don't do any of that. And so, again, it's going to look a lot different. But I just think at the end of the day, you know, football is a game of blocking and tackling. And up front, you just got to be dominant. It's just harder for me to see that when you're playing with, like, lighter guys up front or 3-down linemen, right? I love when I see a physical, like, because, again, I mean, that's what I played with. That's what I want to like. You know, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, right? Then a guy like Ryan Anderson as a jack, or Will Anderson, one of those guys that's physical but can rush the passer. Then you got that big defensive end, like guy like Jonathan Allen. I mean, he was so versatile. He could play the 5, he could play the 3. Hell, he could play a nose. And so those type of fronts are dominant, man. The front that I'm seeing that we're probably going to have is more elusive, athletic, which I know some people like. That's kind of the new age with football kind of turning into passing league stuff. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm just giving my thoughts on what I've seen so far from watching all this tape. I don't know if you've had a chance to really watch them yet, but if you go watch some South Alabama tape, you'll kind of see what I've been looking at.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really delve into that just now. But I mean, again, I have a general concept of that type of style of defense, but I'll definitely get more
like those
into it.
like those Big 12 defenses. You remember, like, because they're the ones that kind of started. Remember how Baylor and some of these other schools, like Matt Rule was running it, be like a 3-3-5 type defense.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not a huge fan of that.
I don't kind of like a 4-2-5 against, but you see it more and more offense in the SEC though that looks or mimic the Pac-12, the big. I mean,
that's true.
You're seeing more spread. You're seeing more basketball on grass, so to speak. You are seeing more of that now. This is for sure. Back in the day, you know, when you had to definitely play against 12 personnel a lot, where people are ramming the ball down your throat, you better have some big dudes.
Oh, you had to.
I mean, because that's why personnel matters in football, because, you know, it's important. That's why Nick Saban had a problem with teams going fast, and they had a hard time exchanging, you know, getting the right personnel on the field, because you want to go big on big, small on small. That's important, you know, because the offense is always looking, and the system allows them to try to take advantage and full advantage of those mismatches, right? So they can get you in the wrong personnel, wrong grouping, wrong package, and boom, they hit you over the top with a big play.
Yeah.
So it's imperative that you get the right people on the field. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, now, you know, you got to be able to do a little bit of both. But a team like Georgia will still run 12 personnel. You know, they still believe in physicality. They're a team that can and figured out how to be physical with playing 11 personnel, which is a nickel offense, right? So they figured that out. And there's teams that has athletic enough linebacker that's called the Sam position, so they don't have to go to, you know, nickel if they're in a base in a true 4-3 or whatnot. defense when they got a Sam linebacker that's very agile and can run, right? So they don't really have to change to nickel. They don't have to go to the 5 defensive backs because they have an athletic linebacker. So you see it a whole bunch of different ways. I just don't know for sure, what Womack is doing. We have to look at the personnel of Alabama, who's going to be where. That's going to really decide what they are doing. But we still do understand one thing. You have to be able to stop the run in the SEC.
Yep.
You have to be able to win in the trenches in the SEC. And if you don't, you are going to lose games. I don't care what your offense looks like. I don't care how sexy you think you are on offense and you got Frisbee catching dogs at wide receiver. If you cannot stop people on defense, you lose. And that's my biggest concern right now for this defense of Alabama. I know they got some guys, but man, they got a lot of holes to fill. You got a new defensive mindset. You got a new scheme. What is this defense going to look like? Those are the biggest questions that I have right now with this Kalen DeBoer new era on the way. Quick timeout, Tommy. As I promised, I lied actually because I said this segment, but you're up first. You can lead us off coming up after this timeout. This is the Mills Edge on the Tide 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Get in the zone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Pac-12. I mean, teams are definitely going to have more opportunities to rush the passer. That definitely makes sense. They had a good edge guy too. I can't remember his name. I think he might have been number 8. Yeah, no. I mean, you still can have production. It's just, I've seen us run kind of that lighter front, doing stuff like that. I mean, we started doing a little bit of that with Pete. We didn't do that when I was here, and I get it yet offenses, but I just saw how we were susceptible to the run at times because we were lighter up front and had less guys up front. Kevin said, "Let the people who get paid to coach." And nobody's telling them what to do. I mean, we get paid to talk about it. So that's what we're doing, Kevin. Nobody's saying anybody's right or wrong. This is all subjective. I mean, we just have experience of playing at the highest level, so we just giving our thoughts. That's why people are in here listening. No, I understand. We've got depth. There's just a lot of young guys. That's the problem. So I mean, I guess it's not a ton of depth because it kind of replacing a lot of the guys that left, but replacing 2 veteran cornerback there as talented as Kool-Aid and Terran is going to be tough. You got Damani Jackson, I think his last name, from USC, good football player with experience. That other side's open. Malachi can stick at the nickel, but I wouldn't be shocked if they move him back to one of those safety spots because you don't have you lost Caleb Downs and Jalen Key. Basically lost the whole secondary besides Malachi, so you got to replace all those spots. And you only got one guy with experience. That would be Damani Jackson. So I think that's his name, right? It's Damani Jackson. We did have some bad snaps last year, Greg, but they brought in the center from Washington. I think we got a guy in this new signing class that's supposed to be a good player. I think it's Casey Poe. A lot of people are really high on him. Now, I don't know if he's got experience playing center, but I saw some people saying that he possibly could play. Were we not having problems talking to him? No, we did. I mean, at times for sure. But I'm referring to look at 2 years ago and how when we were running with Will when he slid inside. And again, they only did that. That was really a testament to us not recruiting the same level of players on the defensive line. I mean, that just tells you all you need to know that a 245-pound outside linebacker is your best strong side end. You know.
And welcome back into this Hump Day edition of the Miller's Edge right here on Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC, home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Again, we are presented by the Good Feet Store, America's arch sport experts. If you're in any type of pain, foot pain, knee pain, back pain, head on over to the Good Feet Store. Give those premium arch sports a try. They're designed to eliminate and alleviate pain. You can use them for anything. Walking your dog, going to the grocery store. You keep those things in, I promise they'll get you realigned and balanced. You will feel better than ever. And all that pain will be gone, I'm telling you. So go check them out. It's try before you buy. You've got nothing to lose, so head on over to the Good Feet Store in Midtown Village in Tuscaloosa. They've got a location in Birmingham, or you can always go to goodfeet.com to find the nearest location to you and schedule an appointment. Again, that's Good Feet, improving the quality of people's lives 2 feet at a time. Let's head on over to the phone lines. We've got Tommy, who's been patiently waiting. Tommy from Romulus, welcome into the Miller's Edge, sir. How are you this morning? This afternoon, excuse me. Good.
I'm good. How y'all?
Doing well, doing well. I don't think we really got into it just yet, so we're doing good.
Stellar.
Stellar. Okay. I am like your father. I'm concerned about the defense. We don't have no boss hogs on the defensive line of the ball and the secondary. The offense part, their mind game from watching it, game plan is that. All right. But now I want to see something. Are they going to bring it to the SEC type of play? I mean, and this coming up next year, I hear Alabama is going to be loaded with prospects on defense and offense. So I don't,
Wait a minute, hold on. You heard that?
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know. I mean,
Are you? You can't fire me.
I mean,
I need you to promise me.
yeah, somebody else was just telling me on the phone that they didn't hear that.
Well,
I
I thought
mean,
the number one cornerback in the state went to Ohio State committed for next year. So, I mean, I don't know.
They did. I think they got 1 and 2.
Okay. Well, it just depends. I mean, if he wins the state, he's going to be fine because we have a good state that produces good football talent. I know everybody wants to scream about Florida, California, and Texas. Pennsylvania, but we do pretty good here in Alabama. I mean,
Alabama got great football talent. I mean, the Southeast, South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Georgia.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, South Carolina's been lacking. I was looking at our prospects because somebody told me to look at somebody, and I was like, dang, we don't have. I mean, North Carolina, I think they've got the number 1 offensive tackle for 2025. Other than that, man, Carolina's look a little starved of talent right now. But you talk about Georgia, Florida. Louisiana, right? I mean, Alabama as well. I mean, there's a plethora of talent in those 4 states alone. So honestly, I mean,
then Bama goes national, but they're national. I mean, they go to
no,
California,
definitely national. But
they go out the country. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we got a
Boyd.
linebacker from Germany.
Well, that's probably gonna happen with Kevin DeBoer because they definitely gonna know who he is. I mean, Nick Saban can go out the country. Kevin DeBoer can't go out the country yet.
Well, I mean. Alabama have that brand is known, but still, some have been complaining in the past that Nick Saban have gone more globally, and he needs to stay locally because every kid in this state, and the same thing with South Carolina. If you live in Alabama, you want to play for Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina, Clemson, and South Carolina. That's just the way it is, the way it used to be when I was growing up. I mean,
That has definitely changed, Tommy, for sure.
Oh, I know, yeah, but it just. But when your home school start courting, you kind of perked up a little bit, like, hey, they now recognizing me, So
Yeah, you got to get the love from your home. If you're not getting the love from your home schools, then yeah, I hear what you're saying. But now, with money, NIL, we're definitely going to talk about that next hour. Everything's in play, and the whole love for the local school, is it the same? I mean, there's no reason. Back in the day, there was a guy last year, Peter, that played at Clemson, the defensive tackle.
Peter Woods.
Peter Woods is the guy Alabama should have gotten. Peter Woods is that defensive lineman that we've been sitting here talking about for 8 minutes. That's destructive and has a ceiling that's unbelievable.
Oh, he would have been a dog here.
And Alabama can't even get him. He goes to Clemson.
Well, hold on. But how did Clemson get him? We always talk about Dabo not wanting to adapt and wanting to pay up or do all these things. I mean, they had to pay him to go to Clemson, right?
You think?
I was told that Alabama didn't really recruit him hard enough.
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you, Tommy. I talked to some people up here, and they were high on him. Now, I mean, I don't know about every single individual, but the people I talked to, matter of fact, they told me to go look at his tape.
I looked at his tape in high school, and this tape was off the freaking chart.
He's one of those guys that I could watch and be like, yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about his transition.
He's an easy one to say, why doesn't Alabama get that guy, Tommy? Why do you let that guy, you never let a guy like that leave your state?
I don't know.
I mean,
really?
To be fair, Alabama landed James Smith and Quay Rousseau, and both guys were 5 stars or borderline 5 stars. James Smith, they're both out of Carver High School. What I'm saying is at Alabama. So, but what
still here?
Yeah, he was just a freshman last year. So that's what I'm saying. They still landed some guys, and I remember covering them for signing day. I did the show with Chris Stewart. They definitely are some good players, and they started giving them a little bit more playing time last year. But Peter Woods to me is one of those guys. I mean, I think he really would have been a day one difference maker.
Peter Woods is a Sunday guy. You know that from high school,
right?
But you got to remember about Dabo. He's an Alabama kid. He grew up in Pelham, and he have but he have wrangled a lot of good talent out of this state.
Well, he got that receiver that Alabama wanted. Remember,
Justin Ross.
No.
Oh yeah, he.
No, I think
Ross, he got another one.
Wasn't it
recently?
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But and Georgia fans sitting over in Georgia saying like, how in God's world do Georgia players want to go play for Alabama? They still mad about Caleb Down, and now he going to Ohio State. They even madder that he won't come home.
Well, with the way recruiting is with NIL and all this crap, I mean, it's inevitable. You're going to lose some guys. You're not going to land every guy from your state. Just like you're talking about that cornerback who's the number 1 player in the state of Alabama for 2025. His name's Naeem Offord, I think, out of Birmingham. He just committed to Ohio State. People are upset about that. But, I mean, the thing is, with NIL, and we've just been talking about how much Ohio State has been putting out in terms of NIL payments, right? I mean, that's almost inevitable. And again, you got plenty of time. He's not signed. The kid could end up flipping. But I think the second guy is crystal ball 100% Alabama. Zion Grady. Was he a one-time commit? Was he committed here at one point? So I think there's still plenty of time to cover some ground. Obviously, there's a lot of talent in the state. I mean, I'm just looking at the top 5 guys are all top 50 players in the country. So I think it's going to be critical to really make some, cover some ground with these players and retain those guys, because you got so much talent in your backyard. We got to get back to, really hunkering down and then controlling the state, right? I mean, you got a guy like Hugh Freeze, at Auburn. He's not going to be afraid to pay up. You got Ohio State coming down here, these Big Ten schools. Trust me. Remember Michigan was trying to hold football camps, one in Alabama. They're trying to hold those satellite camps. They know there's talent down here. And now they can pay for it. Before they couldn't pay for it. So.
Well, it just, I don't know. I like to stay in a 500-mile radius.
500 miles, that's your limit? That sounds like me. That sounds like me when I'm looking for cars, Tommy. I'm on Auto Trader. I put in a radius because I'm like,
that, but
I get a chip.
People laugh at you like y'all having a joke. Okay, that's fine, but okay. When you get kids from California and Pennsylvania, they don't understand the Alabama and Auburn rivalry. They don't understand Alabama and Tennessee.
What about Bryce Young, Tommy?
Well, yeah. And we got.
I know what you mean, though. I know,
but generally, it's okay to get a Bryce Young. It was okay had to get a tour from Hawaii once in a lifetime. Well, we wasn't supposed to get these lifetime football players. Nobody from Hawaii going to come to Alabama. The only other person we ever got from Hawaii was Peter Kim, and he was a kicker. I mean,
Well, listen,
I knew
Tom.
him. That's the reason I remember him. I knew him at one time. I mean,
Well,
so,
your coaches is about 12 miles from Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
your head coaches from the Pacific Northwest, which is just right there by the water. So, I mean, welcome in all these Californians to down here in the South. Welcome.
well, it's okay, but I mean,
Yeah, it's definitely okay. I mean,
Yeah,
get the
I
best
mean, but
players
I
you can
just,
get. Let's ride.
yeah. I mean, I just, when you have kids playing for Alabama, from Louisiana fans hate them with passion because they traded the left and they want to play hard. I just love the little rivalry like that, the intersectional between conference schools. That's where you miss, because you used to love to watch Tennessee and Auburn, Alabama, Georgia. You just love those teams.
Yeah, it just means more. Tommy, thank you, buddy.
All right, man. Y'all have a great day. Talk to you.
All right, brother.
Yes,
Top of
sir.
the hour break. We'll be back in a moment.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
Tiger Woods announced he will make his 2024 debut at next week's PGA event at Riviera Country Club in Los Angeles. It will be his first official PGA Tour start since last year's Masters. NFL media reports Patriots executive Elliott Wolf will be in charge of New England's personnel department moving forward. Reports say former Jets and Bills head coach Rex Ryan has reportedly interviewed for the Cowboys defensive coordinator opening. In the NBA, ESPN reports the Jazz are trading Simone Fontecchio to the Pistons in exchange for Kevin Knox and second-round pick in this year's draft. In college football, Ohio State coach Ryan Day confirmed that he will be giving up offensive play calling for the 2024 season. And in baseball, Netflix announced a new docuseries following the Red Sox for the entirety of the upcoming season.
You wouldn't think that this still happens. Hi, Barry Buckner for Tuscaloosa Hyundai. We have had customers come in who were visibly upset. Not at us, but at the dealership they had just left. Why were they upset? When you're shopping for a vehicle or any item, nothing is more frustrating than an agenda. It makes no difference what you say. They have no intention of working within your numbers, and the pressure reaches the point that when you walk away, you're the one that feels bad. At Tuscaloosa Hyundai, it's a pleasure seeing our customers relax when they realize we're the exact opposite of agenda. Tuscaloosa Hyundai is customer driven. Every customer has different needs, and we're good with that. Our lineup of new Hyundais is outstanding, and all with no add-on side stickers. We're proud of our processes. When you're named the best of the best in your community, no agenda necessary. If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to save, that's our business. Tuscaloosa Hyundai, corner of Skyland and Hargrove, TuscaloosaHyundai.com.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Anjali.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just got an alert for a strange charge on my card.
No problem. We make sure you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card. Let's see. Did you purchase something from a t-shirt cannon store yesterday?
Absolutely not. No, I already have like 3.
$0 fraud liability guarantee. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
Did you know that 90% of the lawyers you see or hear advertised aren't even in Alabama?
Just think about that. I used this guy, Stephen Mesrano, twice because he did what no other lawyers could do. He won for me, and he can win for you. Mez wins.
Thanks, guys. I'm attorney Stephen Mesrano, and I win. Call me, 205-800-8000, and let me fight for you. And when you call, you'll actually talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
I don't think Jaheim lost too much weight. Honestly, I think he just has been banged up. He was dealing with a lot of stuff. So I He was way too big to start off with. Yeah, I don't think it's a weight thing, honestly. He's dealing with a lot of injuries. I don't think he was ever fully healthy. Let's see. Yeah, they had him listed at 320. I mean, that's perfect, right? 6'5", 320. I mean, that's great size. I think because what did he come in at? Wasn't he like huge when he got here or something? He's the one that had that big transformation, right? Let me see these stats.
To go down to Auburn, Alabama, big SEC matchup. And Alabama right now in first place. But the Tigers at Neville Stadium, they're lurking. They're trying to knock off the Tide and get back in contention. Should be a good game. And Auburn 14 games in a row at home. So the Tide trying to break that streak. We talked about that. We talked a little bit about everything. Nothing real serious going on in football. Signing day. But Alabama had 3 guys to sign. Of course, the most important one, Ryan Williams, recommitting back to the Tide, saying yes to 5+ star wide receiver. Everybody's ecstatic about that. Noah Carter, a linebacker from California, Arizona, really, Peoria, I think, Arizona, was committed to Washington, and Kalen DeBoer. Now he has switched that commitment to Alabama and has signed. And then Quentin Reese, local kid from Birmingham, 6 feet 205, a little undersized, but people say he's a run and hit type of guy. But they like him a lot as well. So the 2024 class complete for the Crimson Tide. Regardless of what you think, they're sitting there at number 2 still in the country. So if you're Kalen DeBoer, you gotta like what Nick Saban has left you with a lot of great talent, especially when you look at last year's number 1 class, this year's number 2 class,
This year was number 2 class. I had to go back and look what the others were, but we all know it's always top 2, at least with Coach Saban. And for anybody that's wondering if we're off to a slow start for this next year, 2025, no, not really, because I think we are kind of behind the 8 ball, at least last year. A lot of people are concerned as well. So hopefully we'll see that start picking up as things move on. But you mentioned earlier in the show about the coaching staff and wondering when things would be finalized. I'm kind of confused too, because I've heard several things. I've heard that the contracts aren't necessarily finalized. That's why we haven't necessarily seen like official announcements from the school, which is different. Normally they officially announce stuff, but we've slowly seen coaches rolling in with like goodbye letters to their previous school, and then them changing their Twitter bio and the background profile picture to the updated graphics. They're all, from the same thing. I'm assuming the same source, probably from someone with the program. With that being said, so I don't know if it's like unofficially official, something like that. But it sounds like this staff is about rounded out. We saw that in Oklahoma. This is what's confusing. I think it was the Oklahoma special teams assistant or analyst was hired. I don't know if we know where he's going to be on this staff, because I want to say we already have the total number of coaches once they hired William Inge. So Jay Nunez, who was hired from Oklahoma, he was a special teams analyst. He'll be hired here, at least according to these reports. However, not too sure exactly where he'll be. I know he could do special teams. Maybe he's also a special teams analyst like he was at Oklahoma, and maybe he'll join William Inge, who again, William Inge, if I'm pronouncing that right, he's a former Washington coach. He was with Coach DeBoer at Washington, but he also, I believe, was at Indiana with Coach DeBoer, where I think he served as a special teams coach. But last season, he was the assistant head coach, co-defensive coordinator, and linebackers coach for Washington. So it looks like this staff is about complete. I know you brought that question up earlier. I'm just not too sure if they officially announced everything, but I think it's safe to assume that's kind of who we're going to see. And answer your question with Grubb, I think he's set to stay. I think those are just reports. Everybody's going to report on that. That's juicy news. Alabama's newest offensive coordinator already in consideration for the offensive coordinator position in Seattle, but it appears, I'd imagine he's going to be here. He was at Junior Day. He's been actively on the road recruiting, doing all that good stuff. And I know they're finally starting to get into their meetings and things where they can kind of start talking ball and whatnot, which is good. So, I'm looking forward to it. And I think spring football, the schedule this year, they're going to do spring football before spring break. I think they're doing like 3 practices. So we'll have some spring football coming up soon, probably 3.5 weeks or so. We'll start being able to talk about that. But that to me is really where my eyes are set. Because then again, right now, the Kane Womack stuff on his defense, I'm going off of watching South Alabama. I'm talking to various people that have worked with them, all that good stuff, and have learned a lot about it then. But I really want to see kind of how our guys fit into this, because you've been saying it. This still is 95%, of the guys that we had, under Coach Saban. So I'm curious to see how everybody, fits in this defense. Then offensively, I am really curious to see kind of how guys progress and how we move forward. But so I just want to answer your question on that real quick. Initially, you mentioned the coaching staff, so I think that's it. Now we'll have to see how they shift things around, but they just haven't announced it. And do you think there's just an issue with contracts?
I don't know. I don't understand. I don't think they know what they're doing and who's going to do what. I still think they're
no, they do, because the coaches put, like, for instance, all the code that they've got. Is it 2 co-defensive coordinators? So you got Coach Mo Linguist.
But I thought they had more coaches than you're supposed to have 10 assistant coaches, right?
Yeah, well, now that they hired 2 recently, so Jay Nunez from Oklahoma, he was a special teams analyst at Oklahoma. So I don't know if he's coming and doing that same role, because I think, and my numbers could be wrong because I don't have an official, even if you go to the Alabama official website, there's no, only coach listed on there is Kalen DeBoer. That's why I wouldn't be shocked if he's the only one who has a finalized contract. But I thought William Inge would have been the last coach, on-field coach. So maybe they took Jay Nunez from Oklahoma to do the same role here, where he's not an on-field coach, but he's heavily involved in the special teams game plan. I don't know. When I was here, we rotate. We had always had different special teams coaches, but Coach Dub, we had B-Dub, we had who else did it? I'm drawing a blank. Oh man, I can't even remember right now. But I probably had like 3 or 4 different special teams coaches, but we did it differently though. It's not like B-Dub was actually kind of an actual special teams coach. I feel like. Then I know one year we had I'm like seeing their faces, can't even think of a name. Panunzio did it. Coach Panunzio was one of the special teams coaches one year. I think Coach Saban just had to assign guys that role. But yeah, Coach Burns, I believe, did it one year. Just was funny, but I don't know. So we'll see. But I guess we'll keep an eye on the official news for these coaches that when they're finally named, exactly what they're doing, like officially from like a school press release. But because that's what we haven't got. We've gotten the Twitter bios and all that, but no official release from the school.
Yeah, I just think it's a little strange, but I think they still are some uncertainty to who's going to do what, who's going to be an analyst, who's going to be off the field. I think they're still trying to figure that thing out. So we just kind of have to keep our eyes open and ears open, wait and see what's going to happen with the coaching staff here at Alabama. 205-342-9904. Don't forget to download the app. It's free. It's absolutely free.
Well, real quick, so Bama Central has an article they wrote today, 2 hours ago. Matter of fact, from Joe Gaither. Shout out to Joe. So it says, offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, running backs Robert Gillespie, wide receivers Jamarcus Shepard, Offensive line, Scott Huff. Tight ends, Nick Sheridan. So 4 of those 5 are from Washington. That one being the one outsider would be running backs coach Robert Gillespie. Defense coordinator Kane Womack, former South Alabama head coach. Defensive line Freddie Roach, retained from Coach Saban's staff. Linebackers William Inge. Defensive backs Mo Linguist, and defensive backs Colin Hitchler. Those last 2 guys are co-defensive coordinators, and one will probably serve cornerbacks, other will be safeties. And then it's the special teams coordinator Jay Nunez. But the only issue is you only get, like you said, you only have 10. Right now, this show's 11. So I'm assuming the Nunez guy will probably be in a similar off-the-field role like he was at Oklahoma. But, again, that's what Joe wrote. I don't know if there's any official press from the school, but that's kind of what people are at least considering to be the finalized staff. So
Very interesting. Quick timeout. Be right back in a moment.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Anjali.
Hi.
We're going to go ahead and play this with college football have Kendall Jenner now. Did y'all see that she was here? That was so random. But I think she was promoting her tequila or something. If you guys haven't, you know the drill. Make sure you like the stream. We always appreciate that. What do you guys got? If you guys got any questions, drop them in the comments. We can talk about it on there. Signing day is so slow, so there's not really much to cover. Got a Super Bowl coming up this weekend. If T-Rob would have stayed at DC, Bama fans would have been worried how the defense would respond in the season. I don't necessarily agree with that, Kevin. If I'm being honest with you, I mean, T-Rob was serving as he was more of a coordinator than others this past year. Just being honest. So things probably would have been, at least scheme-wise, things would have been very similar. I mean, he probably would have had more of this. He had at Carolina, but again, it all comes from the same tree, so pretty much would have been the same.
Pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. For full prescribing information, please call 1-844-989-7284 or visit abrysvo.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very nice afternoon with a sunny sky, the high 67. Tonight fair with the low at 40. Tomorrow partially sunny, the high 62. And Friday, mostly cloudy, a chance of showers by afternoon, the high at 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
This is Miller's Edge on Tide 100.9.
Day edition, signing day edition of the Miller's Edge. Corey Miller, Christian Miller, hanging out here with you with Noah producing the show. Brian Williams, the 5-star plus wide receiver, the recommitted wide receiver, ink to pen. Yes. Also, special guest at his signing today, Roll Tide Willie, showing up everywhere. He was there. And here's what Brian Williams had to say about saying yes to his first love.
The day's finally here. How's it feel?
Great, amazing, outstanding, fantastic, beautiful. It feels great, honestly.
How tough was it in the end, the decision process?
It was definitely, it definitely wasn't easy. Just with everybody pulling at me and, everybody wanting a piece of me, it was definitely a tough decision, but it came to be easy once I talked to Coach DeBoer and the new staff. It just made me feel real comfortable.
What was it about Coach DeBoer that you just instantly knew he was a genuine person you wanted to play for?
Anyone else that probably came into that position, they'll try to live up to the Coach Saban hype or try to act like Coach Saban. He's himself. He's very comfortable in himself. He made me very comfortable, and I believe in his offense. So.
Was there ever a chance, even when you decommitted, you weren't going to Alabama, you think?
No. I always, they were always at the top of the list for me. It was just, I just wanted to get to know the new staff.
How much did Jalen have to do with it? He seems like he was a key in all this.
I'm going to give him the #1 recruiter. I got to give it to him. If I don't, he might beat me up. So.
What was his biggest pitch to you?
We got to play together. Me and him, we like best friends, so we got to.
Do you flip to the recruiter role now, trying to get anybody you can in the 25
Oh,
class?
definitely. I got to get everybody that I can. I had a #1 25 class in the country. We got to get back to it.
What's your message to Alabama fans now that you made it official?
Roll Tide!
There you go. That sounds just like his best friend, Jalen Milroe.
No. He was talking about Jalen Mbakwe.
Well, no, I'm saying he sounds like Jalen Milroe, bro. Dad.
No, that did it. But I meant when he was referencing Jalen in the interview, he was talking about Jalen and Mbakwe.
Playing together, yeah. Hit the #1 recruiter, yeah. They all the same thing.
Close enough.
Listen, I mean, kudos to him for, and listen, basically he said Alabama still was his #1 team, even before Kalen DeBoer. He just wanted to get to know who was taking his job.
Right.
So, do you think if it had been anybody else, maybe he would have changed? Would Auburn would have had a chance? Would Ohio State would have had a chance if it had been somebody else? But based on that interview, it sounds like to me that he never really changed his mind. I mean, I understand why kids said, you know what, let me hit the brakes. Let me put this thing in reverse real quick. And let me just think, right? Let me just really see what's happening first. So let me just back up. Let me pump the brakes and chill for a minute. Even though that's why I called it the first love. I mean, he still loved Alabama. He just needed to think a little bit and hear from these guys what they were about and what they were trying to do. And then, of course, his good friend,
Jalen Mbakwe.
Yeah, so that definitely helped seal the deal for him. But it sounds to me he had no plans of leaving.
Yeah, well, and that's why I said I gave Coach DeBoer and staff, I would say like half credit when we were talking to KJ, because again they still could have very well lost the kid if they messed it up. But from what I heard, I mean he was Alabama through and through, loved Alabama, and that's why people got upset kind of when you kind of made the comment like that he was already here, but I guess the kid kind of proved your point and somewhat of my point that he was an Alabama lock, which is good again because we. Definitely would utilize his talent. Somebody actually asked about him and if we feel that how much weight he needs to put on to be effective right away at this level. And I'll be honest, I mean, after seeing a guy like Smitty do what he did at his size, like 160 something pounds, I don't think there's a set number that he needs to be. I mean, Smitty still weighs about that, maybe slightly more in the league. But realistically, the wide receiver positions that's one of those positions where you don't necessarily have to have a set number to play, right? I mean, that's a skill position that allows you to kind of be yourself. There's different body types. Some guys are shorter, taller, bigger. Some are skinnier, right? I mean, that's probably one of the few positions where he's not going to necessarily have to. Now, would it benefit him, from a reliability standpoint, being able to hold up more? Maybe. I think it could be beneficial. I'm not saying him add a bunch of, bad weight where he loses athleticism or his ability. But, I mean, you're talking about he's a 16-year-old, just about to turn 17-year-old. He's going to naturally put on some more weight and just put on some healthy muscle. And Coach Ballou and their staff, they'll help him do that. So, I mean, if he's listed, I think he was listed at 160 something. I'll pull it up. But I think, like I said, I'm not too worried about his weight. I mean, after watching Devontae Smith do what he did, I think he'll be fine. Now, other positions, that's a different story. But wide receiver, he can kind of get away with that.
Well, he can get away with it now just because how they play the game. I mean,
right.
they're untouchable. You can't even can't even freaking touch the wide receivers. I mean, you can't hit them when they go across the middle. They're going to throw a flag. So a lot of defensive backs, defensive players in general are playing very timid, and therefore now you got these quick spin dudes that's running around, and the rules are stating that you can't touch them. So I think he'll be fine. We know he's going to get a lot stronger. We know he's going to get probably even faster, bigger because of the nutrition, the program there at Alabama, the weight lifting and everything. So he's going to definitely grow. He's only just getting ready to turn, I think he's just turning 17, same age you were when you got to Alabama. So, I mean, still in puberty. So listen, these guys got a lot to grow. And again, I don't even think it's the athleticism. It's more about learning the game, your mind, knowing when to sit down in a zone and know, different things, understanding the quarterbacks. And so it's a lot more than just on the field. I think it's a lot more from a mental standpoint of learning how to play the game. That's where he has to grow. He still is a young football player. So I'm not setting expectations up, as y'all know. I don't crazy high for him, and you're number one anyway. Can he play? Yes. Will he probably be able to play some? Yes. Do I think he's going to be dominant? No. I still think he still has to learn how to play. 205-342-9904. Let's talk to Danny in Tuscaloosa. Danny, thanks for holding. Welcome in.
Danny, you there?
I really like the defense myself. And 2 times I've watched Alabama kind of get beat up in Santa Clara, California, and Pasadena, and it was based on the opposing team's defensive line and a lot of time in our backfield. I just watched it this past January 1st. You guys, I know you've been talking defense, but could you elaborate not so much X's and O's or schemes, but on the personnel themselves that Alabama now have or going into the 2024 season? Could you help us out on knowing who they are and not so much their rating, but how you rate them?
Yeah, we can try. I mean, I'll be honest.
That's a great question.
That is. I'm not gonna lie, Danny. We kind of caught you late. What side of the ball, or who are you talking about specifically?
Oh, I'm sorry, the defensive line.
The defensive line?
Yeah, well, the whole defense, but the defensive line out in Santa Clara, California, several years ago, I watched Clemson just kind of, they mauled us anyway. And then I watched Michigan do the same thing.
Damn, you're talking about my senior year.
Well, yeah, but
hey, I was on the sideline for what it's worth. No, I'm just playing. Well, no, I'm not playing. I was on the sideline, but no, we did. No, you're right. No, they got the best of us. I'll be honest with you though, that wasn't a talent thing. That was a mindset thing. I mean, if you we had Quinnen Williams, Raekwon Davis, Bugs. I mean, it wasn't a talent thing. We had plenty of talent. We didn't have our head in the right place, and I could sense it on that trip. Guys just were focused on the wrong things. We were kind of feeling ourselves, and unfortunately, we did not play up to our standard. But I didn't mean to cut you off though. But I get what you're saying though. It's 2 of those big matchups. We didn't really play up to our standard. But you're asking about.
I think the biggest question Danny's talking about though is he was there. He saw what I've been saying, how important the trenches is, especially on the defense side of the ball.
Who's absolutely
coming back with Jaheim Otis and Tim Smith and the other guy that's played valuable minutes. Other than that, they are devoid, I think, of experience and devoid of talent.
No, not experience. They've got plenty of experience.
No, the interior line, but the edge guys, you're losing your 2 top. You're losing
the edge, yes. But I don't. Those are outside linebackers. I don't consider them defensive linemen.
Hold on, let me just finish. I think they return 35 to 40% of production on that side of the football, and I think it's a huge reason to be concerned. And the fact that if you go back to what Danny is saying, and I totally agree, if you go back those 3 or 4 years ago when we talked about Alabama has not recruited and signed juggernauts up front like they did on that major run of winning titles. They controlled the trenches. People would talk about how they changed the game. The things that the offensive line tried to say at the SEC media days, right? It seems like yesterday they were J.C. Latham and Tyler Booker were saying, "Hi, we're going to make people quit. We're going to do this, blah, blah, blah." And then they got obliterated up front. 133 out of 35, whatever in the country in sacks. I mean, they've taken a step back on the offensive line the last 4 years. They've taken a step back on the defensive line the last 4 years. And to me, Danny, which I said this, I'm concerned. I mean, I think offensively, based on they got what they do offensively and being juggernauts there, they got pieces. I think they're going to be okay. But we know what wins championships is that defense. Can you stop the run? Can you come up with big stops in the red zone? In the fourth quarter, Alabama had Michigan 4th and 2, basically to win the game. They make a huge mistake. Caleb Downs don't cover the flat guy. I mean, the last 4 years, if we're honest, Alabama defensively and especially up front defensive line, while I even would say linebacker too, have taken a major step back from what they were those 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years, maybe 19. I mean, they were dominant. And every year they had 2-3 guys that usually, they're going to be first round picks. They haven't had those dudes.
Right.
So
not in the last maybe four or 5 years, it hasn't been that way.
And that's why I tell people, I'm not sitting here going to sit and say they're going to win 9, 10, or 11 games. I think 9 is the number average. But I'm like, defensively, we don't know what they got. Then you lose the 2 corners that's going to be first round, second round, probably. You lose those guys. You lose the best freshman in America, Caleb Downs, in the secondary. I mean, you only got Malachi Moore coming back. You got linebackers, that are okay, middle backers. They're not great linebackers. Campbell and who am I? I missed 32.
Deontay Lawson. He's a heck of a football player, man.
They're not great. They didn't play great.
He did have some. I disagree on that, but
Danny, I think you're right. There's my breakdown. I think we got some problems, and I think it's going to be imperative that they find some dudes in the transfer portal on the defensive side of the ball. Whatever.
So the personnel,
right?
The defensive line now that we have now that's currently at on campus, are they? I mean, I don't guess I know who they are. Could y'all maybe talk about them a little bit and let's get to know them a little bit more? When maybe on another show or something. I don't know.
No.
I've heard a lot about offense.
Yeah. How about this? What we'll do is, because we got to hit a break, Danny. When we come back from this break, we'll dive into kind of more of these players specifically and kind of our thoughts on them as football players, how they fit in, and what to expect from them. We might have got a little too ahead of you going over all the scheme stuff, the X and O. So we'll take a step back and just talk about them for now, and we'll do that as soon as we come back from this break. So, Danny, we appreciate it, and we'll make sure you get your questions answered as soon as we get back. But you're listening to the Miller's Edge right here on Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. We'll be right back after a quick timeout. So Sam, you agree with my dad? Yeah, no, I'm not saying he was perfect, but I wouldn't say he wasn't that good. He had some really good football games. If you really dive into like some of the tape, I mean, some of those games, man, he was doing some incredible stuff. I just think he was a little inconsistent. There was time. I think he was a little bit of a liability in coverage, if I'm being honest with you. Now I do know he was coming back from. I think his knee was a little banged up. Same with Jod Campbell. Jod Campbell missed the game with the injury. But they both did some really good stuff. I just think they could be a little more consistent. I can't remember what game it was. Even Cole Kubelik broke down one of Deontay's games, actually, I think. But I think again, they got another year of experience under their belt. I think they'll be even better this upcoming year. Just got to go in with tempered expectations. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, you can't deny. I mean, back end, we're losing, I mean, tons of production. And then obviously the edge guys. What I was saying earlier, though, with my dad's point, those edge guys are outside linebackers. When we say defensive line, I only include nose tackle in that strong side end, like a Justin Eboigbe. Just because, I mean, we're separate. I mean, outside linebackers, we have our own meeting room. We do our own separate thing.
Yeah, was it Georgia? And there was another one. It was a home game too. I can't remember, but he was just all over the place, man. The way he was anticipating stuff, shooting gaps. That's what I'm saying. I mean, he had a good year. Now it was a little inconsistent at times, but and I'll be honest, the times where they didn't perform, or he didn't perform his best, it looked like they were tired, right? Like their conditioning wasn't where it probably could have been. Was it Tennessee? I remember I was calling the game and I was just like, damn, man, our defense, they just look gassed. And fatigue makes, excuse me, makes fools out of all of us, right? Fatigue will do that to you. I mean, Tennessee was one of the fastest tempoed offense in the country last year. Also, people got to remember too, it's not always on linebackers too. Sometimes there's other guys that are out of position. It makes the linebackers look bad.
And in Tuscaloosa, had a really, really good question, and I'll let Christian deal with most of it. I was just looking at kind of a early depth chart, spring chart, if you will, just guys that we know that are back right now. Defensively, don't look good at all. I mean, at all. And there's so many blanks in the depth chart at position. Some even on the starters at safety, especially. We don't know who they are. And the other big problem, Christian, is the fact that the lack of depth. So when we talk about these guys leaving, they did get hit hard, especially in the depth department on the defensive side. So you can tell them about the guys we know that you know, especially at the edge. That's going to be stepping up, especially guys coming back at the nose and the two defensive end spots, two linebackers we know. But other than that, there's so many empty spaces on who's going to fill those voids.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I don't look at it and think it's like the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, you've got your starting, both starting linebackers coming back. That's huge. Like that's the head of your defense. Those are your leaders. You got both those guys returning. Then your defensive line. I mean, your starting tackles, nose, all those guys are back. Even the backups. The only guy you lost was Justin Aboigbeam, right? I mean, so Tim Keenan.
Yeah, but let's just be honest. How good were those guys? Not that good.
I think they're solid football players. Were they Quentin Williams or Raekwon Davis or Jonathan Allen's? No. But Tim Keenan played some good football, right? Tim Smith played some good football, especially as the season progressed, right? Jaheim Otis is a guy who looked outstanding as a freshman. He looked like he could have, been on the trajectory of having a career like, one of those notable defensive linemen, Deron Paynes, those guys. He, as a freshman, I said, right? As a freshman, he looked like he was going to be one of those players. I remember watching him and saying, dang, that dude's a beast, man. He's only a freshman. He transformed his body. But he's been battling some injuries, and he hasn't had that growth that we probably envisioned when we first saw him. That being said, though, I mean, you still got solid football players, right? Like, I'm not too concerned in that department because they've got, like, again, you mentioned like experience. You were talking about the edge guys. The defensive line, I don't count the edge guys in there because we're separate. But when I look at this, I mean, Tim Keenan, Tim Smith, Jaheim Otis. Right, all those guys were starters and played valuable minutes. Right, Damon Payne stepped in. He played some snaps last year. James Smith was that freshman out of Carver. They started playing him as the season went on. He was a heavily recruited guy. Has a really good motor for a 300-plus pounder. Right, I'm interested to see how he grows with this new staff and his development. Right, and then. The edge position, you lose all that production, that sure production out of Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, right? I mean, you knew what you were getting out of those guys. But to me, I mean, you've got it's like you got a pool full of young talent. It's just going to be imperative that this coaching staff gets the talent out of these players, right? I mean, I genuinely believe, like, I think what happens is sometimes you get caught up just looking at these lists and it's like, oh, well, it doesn't look this way. But you got to remember, there's going to be guys that step up that you didn't expect. Let me give you an example. Last season, going into the year, people weren't necessarily really talking about Terrion Arnold. They were, right, saying, oh, we expect him to start on the opposite side of Kool-Aid. But they weren't talking about him outplaying Kool-Aid or leading the team or SEC in interceptions and putting his name in first-round conversation. if somebody was, I mean, send it to me. I didn't really hear that much about it. I people knew.
Well, ding, 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 ding. Go back and listen to the show in the preseason.
That
again,
don't, no, that don't count. I'm talking about like back all the way back at
number 3.
I'm talking about all the way back in the spring. That doesn't count. That was in fall camp. I'm saying all the way back in the spring. People weren't just saying like, oh, he's going to be we got a future first rounder. So what I'm saying is people are going to step up. But to answer Danny's question, personnel wise, that's the tackles in the nose that you have. They're experienced players. They're just realistically, they're not on the level as Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen, but they've got experience, and you got to feel good about having that group. Linebackers, I just talked about those guys. They've got experience. I'm curious to see how they play in this defense. That's going to be very aggressive. Have them moving around, reading the quarterback. They're not going to have to think as much. That's why, if anything, one thing you should actually like about this new defense is you always complain about Coach Saban's defense being too complex. Being too difficult for guys to understand and learn. It kind of removes their ability to just play fast. Well, with this defense, I mean, they only have so many coverages they run, and it's really just reading and reacting off of the quarterback. It's a zone defense that reads and reacts off the quarterback. So it's really about making plays, being a football player. So I'm curious to see how those guys perform. But really, Danny, I guess the last part would be the secondary, and we talked about that. But again, Malachi Moore is really your only experienced guy. You got Devontae Smith, the safety, not the receiver, the safety. He's there. I think he's a heck of a football player. He's another guy that I feel like people know of him, but because he missed time majority of the season last year with his foot injury, people kind of forgot about him. But again, he was a starter. He started over Jalen Key before he got hurt. He was the starting.
Jalen Key was boo-boo.
Okay, but he was starting over Jalen Key before he got hurt in training camp. Then he hurt his foot. Jalen Key took over. But then again, if you go back and watch, whoever we played, it was one of the last games, a smaller school. But Devontae Smith got some playing time, and he was all over the field making plays. So I think he's going to have a good year. So to me, him and Malachi, those are two solid pieces in the back end. Corner spot is what I'm worried about, especially with cover 3. I mean, guys are going to have a lot of responsibility on their hands with covering the third and run responsibility. So that's the spot. Damani Jackson, I think he had an okay year at Southern Cal, but he was a former 5-star prospect for what that's worth. And then really you've got outside linebacker and cornerback, you've got a plethora of young football players who you just don't know what you're getting from. You don't really know what you're going to get out of them. A lot of them were highly recruited guys. They obviously have some talent, but it's going to be critical for this coaching staff to get that talent out of them and to develop these players. You got players, they're just inexperienced, they're young, and they need to be developed. If this coaching staff can get these guys to play to their full potential and really grow up fast, I think we'll be solid. Now, do I think we're going to take a step back on defense? I'm just going to be honest with you, I do. I mean, you've got a whole new defense. You've got a lot of youth on the defense. I think you're going to go through growing pains. I'm just being honest with you. I think there's going to be growing pains early on. Now, could they start establishing themselves? Sure, right? But I just think when you combine youth, inexperience at some key spots, and then also a whole new staff, whole new system. I mean, you got to think a lot. The guys, even the veterans, their whole career they've been learning Coach Saban's system. I don't think people consider this. I know it's an easier system, but they're going to have to literally retrain themselves. Technique's different. I'll give you an example. Like when I was with Carolina, the way we played defense with Ron Rivera was a 3-4 defense. We played it one way. And then when Coach Matt Rule got there, we played it completely different. And not to mention, when I came from Alabama, the way we played defense, we did, we shot hands and hips, right? Say I'm playing a 6 technique. I was taught to just straight hands and hips, strike and control my guy. Well, at Carolina, they wanted me it was a penetrating defense. They wanted me just, going through the V of the neck of the tight end like I'm pass rushing on first and second down. Now I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, that's foreign to me. And it took me a while to understand that because for 5 years I did it one way, and now you're asking me to do something totally different. You literally have to retrain yourself to play in a different technique. So that's something to look at too. So that's what spring's going to be good for, that and fall camp, to get these guys adjusted to this new scheme. Because I'm telling you, when you go from one thing to another, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be a transition period. Now I think it can benefit these players a lot because they're not going to have to think as much. They can just fly around. But it's going to take them time to get adjusted, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, But give me the V of the neck coming across. That's where you're supposed to play. Attack, attack, attack. As Bama man said, Willie, what's his name? Bama Willie.
Roll Tide Willie.
Roll Tide Willie. Blitz, Bama Blitz. We don't give a P. That's what I'm talking about. Attack, attack, attack. Final break. No.
Yeah, I mean, right now you got Damani on one side and Pride, man. I guess you have to have a younger guy, unless you go to the portal. Which I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked one bit if we go to the portal for a cornerback. Oh, and I forgot. But I mean, he's another guy. I mean, a lot of potential. Hadn't necessarily played up to that potential. That's why I think. I mean, as much as people are, so high in his coaching staff. I mean, hopefully they're able to really, give these players to play their full potential because you got a lot of guys with potential. And NFL players have to learn another style playing defense. It's how to this new change style. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a problem. It's just part of the game. I just was explaining, Sam, like it's something to consider that when you do something. I mean, because I'm telling you, like Coach Saban when he was here, man, like I remember that book of install. It's like this thick, and I mean, it's just. Oh man, it's literally the thickest play. I mean, it was probably twice as thick as any NFL playbook I ever had, and it is complex, man. So it's going to be a lot different. They're not going to have to think as much, but there's going to be that transition. Like I'm telling you, even just from a technique standpoint, like when you play something one way, like you're trained to do it that way. Like even the coverage guys, like in this defense, like, they're going to have to get out of that thought process of matching stuff. Luckily, these young guys, they hadn't had too much experience, so that's probably. But a guy like Malachi, I'm telling you, I guarantee if you ask him once he starts doing this new system, he's going to have to retrain himself. Like, hey, it's not what I've been doing the past 4 or 5 years, which is fine. Like I say, it's just going to take time to kind of get adjusted to it. But spring should be a good amount of time. And then when you come back, you got to restart for training camp. But then now you can do all 7-on-7s and stuff too during the summer. So Alabama and Georgia's defense are very similar. I mean, they're not identical because Curtis going to obviously twist things a little bit, have some other little nuances in there. But I mean, they're extremely similar. It all comes from the same tree. So. And Kirby runs all that quarters, man-mans, all that stuff. I mean, anybody from Saban's tree, they're all going to run that. From a coverage perspective, definitely. They all play things like that. Quarters, too high shell, pattern match. Like a lot of people, honestly, there's a lot of people that don't even have cover 7, cover 4. I mean, like, because those coverages are so they're so much more difficult. Like, but again, that's because Coach Saban like every single base. That's what I always try to explain to people when they talk about, oh, well, it's too hard. I'm like, yeah, it's hard, but the reason it's like that is because you cover all your bases. Everything is covered.
Wednesday. Hope you have enjoyed yourself. We have for sure. Talking a lot of good football, a lot of meathead ball. Love to get some of that as we talk about a little bit about X and O's and about some of the things the players are doing. I think it's good for the fan base to hear. Don't forget tonight, big game. I hope you settled in if you're not going to the basketball game. Nate Oates and the basketball team travels down to Auburn. That game is at 6 Central Time, I believe, 7 Eastern. So should be a good one. Neville Coliseum Arena, whatever you want to call it, will be packed. They're going to be loud. They're going to be crazy. It's going to be a tough game for the Tide to pull off. Auburn has won 14 in a row at home, so they are tough at home. But Bama, Nate Oates is 6-3. I think his record since he's been here with the Crimson Tide. Look at the pool. I don't want to call it an upset, but it would be an upset to beat Auburn at home, who is ranked in front of the Tide. And it should be a quad 1 win, I believe. I think I'm right in saying that. So that's on tonight. Super Bowl this week. I haven't talked a lot about that. We'll get into more tomorrow and Friday for sure. Talk score predictions, talk about keys to the game. So we'll get into some NFL talk on tomorrow. Of course, we got Stephen M. The M is for Miller. Smith will join us. We'll talk Alabama football with him on the show on tomorrow. So we got a lot to do this week. And we'll keep an eye on the coaching staff in that situation, who will be allocated and to do what. Right now they have 11. You can only have 10 on the field coaches. So we'll see who's going to be the odd man out there. Final thoughts, Christian?
Yeah, no, I think pretty much hit everything. Who do you have in the Super Bowl? I know we hadn't talked about it. I'm going to dive into that as we get closer, but I mean, I know you're a Mahomes guy, but I know, and let's take Taylor Swift out of it, because I know you're a little, biased. You don't want to see Taylor Swift, but just from a X's and O's, football game.
It would be good if their plane don't crank up and they just.
Oh, whoa! I mean, don't wish no. You're saying just it never leaves the okay.
Right,
I was about to say, whoa. I thought you. Dang.
No, dude,
you're saying she just stays stuck in Japan for,
I'm just saying the
for a
plane
day or
don't crank.
two.
If the plane don't crank, they can't go nowhere.
Okay, I got you. Well,
I mean, it can crank up enough time for the Super Bowl.
And I'm curious what our chat thinks too, who they have winning in the Super Bowl. Because again, we are live on YouTube.
I got Patrick Mahomes.
At the Miller's Edge.
I mean, I love CMC. I see his dad, my former New York Giant teammate Ed, is going to be up on my station that I do Charlotte radio once a week. He's on Cal Bailey's show today, so might tune in and listen to see what he has to say. I love to see him win the championship. I love the Brock Purdy story. I love what he stands for, I believe, as a Christian.
So you're not a Brock Purdy hater? Because
I love Brock Purdy.
You've seen that, right? There's a lot of people that, like Cam Newton, that call him a game manager.
But I agree with
Cam
Newton.
Oh.
I agree with him. I'm not a hater, though. I still think he is a game manager, but he's a really daggone good one.
But he makes plays now. I mean,
No,
look,
but
he
he
showed
does
his
make-
legs.
game
He
managers
showed
make
his
some
athletic
plays,
ability
too.
with his legs too.
No, he makes plays too, but I don't think he's
Like
not
a
an
game
MVP
changer.
guy
You wouldn't call him
a lot of people.
like
No.
Mahomes.
So I think Cam is right in that. Respect the man's opinion, but
Do you think he's hating at all? I feel like
everybody
some of it.
call it hate because he's not on the roster. He should be on the roster. We know the politics that goes with all this stuff.
Hold on.
Colin Kaepernick, Cam
wait.
Newton. They're better than half the quarterbacks that's on rosters right now. Let's just be honest.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
They're better than probably a lot
They're
of
better than
backups.
half the
Not
quarterbacks
starters
on-
though.
I'm talking about just in general. They should be a backup quarterback.
But he
There's
don't
no
want to be a backup quarterback, does he? Or did he change his mind? Initially, I thought he said he didn't want to, but he might.
Cam's not playing not because he wasn't good enough. That's crazy.
I don't know. Dang, did you just get a spanking?
I was trying to kick the dog in the boom thing.
Real quick before we get out of here, tonight's a big matchup, Alabama-Auburn. If you haven't already, you need to go to Alumni Hall and get your gear for the big matchup, or for any matchup for that matter. I think baseball is coming up too, so head on over to Alumni Hall, get you a nice Alabama hoodie, get you Alabama t-shirt, hat, all that good stuff right there at Alumni Hall. They've got the officially licensed Alabama gear, the latest and greatest products for all you Alabama fans out there. If you're local, head on over to Midtown Village, Alumni Hall that is in Tuscaloosa, or you can always go to alumnihall.com, where the ultimate Crimson Tide fans shop.
Time is not right. 10 seconds don't go like 1, 2, 10. All right, guys. Ryan Fowler, Get in the Game is coming up next. I say it's called The Game. It's coming up next. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Stephen M. Smith, I guess, tomorrow. Be well.